been a great year for us. We actually are going to grow about 100% this year, so we've doubled our business from 2014. Our position as the only MRC accredited ad server across all ad types in mobile has been a great position for us. Since the acquisition, we are a wholly owned independent subsidiary of WPP. We've added 14 new engineers. We've added more support people. It's really been a boon to us to continue to push our engineering lead over the entire industry in mobile ad serving. So that's really been our focus. How do we get the product better? How do we make it faster? How do we continue to lead in mobile measurement and device identification and in mobile attribution? We've increased our business from all of the holding companies in the world. We service all 5 leading holding companies and most of the leading independents. One of the things we've seen is, while the usage in mobile has grown so much, I mean, now some estimates, Forrester, Gartner, they're all saying, eMarketer, they're all saying over 60%, 50, 60, 70%. Spending's very low. Some people think it's 6 to 7%. Some people think it's 12%. Either way, spending has not caught up to usage. And I think this is one of the fastest adoptions we've seen in a long time. I mean, let's be honest, the iPhone didn't exist 5 years ago. So since 2010, this growth of smartphones and pads has really taken off. And I think the dislocation in spend to usage is even greater than the initial days of cable, when cable grew, but spending wasn't that far off over the years, even though all the cable players always said, hey, broadcast is getting too much spending. I think that split has gotten so big that we're now seeing in the next couple of years, I think, a snapback. I think there is a huge pent-up need for mobile advertising by all the leading advertisers out there. If their spend is in the 6 to 12% level, but usage is now far surpassing digital and desktop, you're going to see, I think, almost a violent swing over the next 2 years. But what's happened is, because the spending was so low, they didn't take the best practices from desktop. So not many advertisers use third-party ad serving in mobile. They site served it. A lot of that was because the publishers looked at them and said, hey, there's no cookies, there's no flash, I'm new, I'm unique, I'm different, it's in-app, it's mobile web. And I think a little bit of it was publishers taking advantage of advertisers and clients. And I think that education has grown greatly on the client side and on the agency side in the last 2 to 3 years. And I think there is this now realization, I really do need to third party serve my ads. I do need to have that independent count. We can't let publishers grade our homework anymore. I think that's the biggest change you'll see that we've seen in the second half of this year. I mean, we've had 100% growth. That's a huge growth rate. We're not seeing that in any of the publicly mobile companies out there and the ad tech companies out there. I think we're growing faster than most people out there. And I think it's because advertisers and agencies especially have realized, I need an independent third-party ad server. And mobile is very different from desktop. I think the industry realizes that a desktop ad server can't serve in a mobile today.
Based on what consumers want and what brands find work, how has the medium of mobile advertising changed?
I don't think we're going to know the implications for another couple of years. I think it's greater than anybody thinks today. When I look at how my teenage sons are using their smartphone and iPads versus watching television and video into consumable bites, I think it's staggering. But I think it's putting a lot of pressure on the ecosystem. We are built for short form, long form television, and we're built for a different model. And I think when you ever have change of this magnitude, it's hard for everybody to catch up to that. I think the agencies are doing a good job in changing all the language and what they do, but it takes time. I mean, if you think about it, the commercials are built for something different. We're seeing a huge growth in the YouTubes and all the different kinds of video you see out there. Video on Facebook, video on Snapchat's discovery platform's fantastic. Video everywhere, but it's short form video. So I think that whole mindset has to change on the advertisers. Can a 3-second ad be great? I just saw one on my trip in India, which was awesome. It was a great 3 to 4 second ad, but it's a whole rethink of how the creative shops attack this new video world, because on that phone, the two phones you have sitting there, my phone's your iPad, it's completely different from the lean back environment that we're seeing in the television world around the world, right?
And Richy, we're getting ready for CES in a couple of weeks. What do you think the conversation is there around mobile, and particularly about devices? And I mean, not that we're expecting any new iteration necessarily, but how has the technology of consumption changed the business in terms of both bandwidth, in terms of computing power? What do you think could be next or should be next?
I don't really know. It's a great question. Here's what we're seeing when I just came back from 12 days around the world. We're seeing that the smartphone, even in developing countries, is outpacing the growth of the flip phone. So you're now going to see more smartphone usage everywhere around the world. You're going to see bandwidth costs go down. You're going to see incredibly new models where advertisers are subsidizing bandwidth for watching a video, testing a product, trying a product. I think brands are trying different things in different regions around the world. I think premium inventory costs very different when you get around the world. By the way, on the end of our trip, we spent a couple days in Shanghai. The publishers in China are completely different from the publishers you see elsewhere, and they are doing phenomenal things. I mean, some of the stuff we saw in China was just really, really cool, and I don't think people are focusing on that market enough. It's a huge market. WeChat, it's a great product. It's a really cool app that pretty much does everything for you. We're going to start seeing, hopefully that breaks out of that market and comes into other markets in a bigger way. I think the integration of apps into the phone in a different and a deeper way that we're not yet seeing here in the United States or in Europe is going to be pretty exciting to see. And I think that's all going to drive, is my phone fast enough? What is my data plan? How do I deal with that? Because I'm going to consume more and I'm going to do more on my phone. That phone is going to become even a deeper extension of my entire digital life. I think all those things are going to keep happening, so that's going to drive the carriers, that's going to drive the manufacturers. I think that all becomes a virtuous circle for a deeper, better, faster, cheaper phone out there in the marketplace.